Hello, welcome. Ryan and Cars. I want. I just thought of something because I was looking down here at the console. Hang on, I'm going to grab the camera. So I got the ESC. Can you actually see that? Yeah. So ESC off. I got parking sensing, and then there's a blank button here. It doesn't do anything. And that's what I wanted to talk about. I remember all the cars that I bought when I was younger. They would always have. It was never the top of the line model, so there was always blanks where buttons were supposed to go. So you got the higher trim level, you got more buttons. Those blanks would be filled out, right? I remember this on my Volvo 244 DL. It was a base model, but it had the automatic with the overdrive. But on the dash, and it had all these places where buttons were supposed to go, but they were blanked out, right? You might be able to relate to that in some older cars that you had. And so because I was always driving used old cars, that's all I could afford at the time. I always thought, hey, when I buy a brand new car, I want to buy a brand new car, fully loaded, where all those buttons are um, there. They're not blanked out. And I remember seeing this on James May's Cars. He did that video series for BBC. James May, I can't remember the name of it, but James May, and Cars. Really good. If you find it, it's if you're a car person, you've never seen it, you have to watch it. But in there, he did mention that as well. One day when I buy a brand new car, I want to buy a fully loaded car, and I want all those blanks filled out. So I bought first brand new car I bought was a Honda Civic Si. It was 2001, I think, and it did have everything. I think none of the buttons were blanked out on it. I was like, okay, cool. But it wasn't a highfalutin model or anything like that. It was just a Civic Si. But the next one I bought was a Honda Odyssey, and I didn't buy the tricked out one. I just bought the basic one with the remote doors. Didn't have the DVD player and everything like that. That was a 2004, I think. But it did have, there were buttons there that were blanked out, and I was like, oh, you get the higher model. So the next time I went and bought an Odyssey, we bought the highest trim model. That was not the touring, so it didn't have the towing package, but it had everything else. It had DVD player, it had 15 cup holders, it had everything except navigation. I didn't because that was what I didn't upgrade to the navigation or anything. I just bought it. It was the fully loaded leather, everything, and there were still buttons blanked out on it. And I was like, maybe the next one. um, I actually bought a BMW 3 Series, and it was the base model, and there were no buttons blanked out on it. They it had stuff like cargo holders on the back seats and stuff that you could upgrade to, and like I think better brakes, better paint, better headlights. I remember going through that with my buddy when he bought his brand new. But the interior, there was nothing. If it wasn't part of the car, it wasn't blanked out, and I really liked that about that car. I really did. It didn't have the computer, the BMW iDrive, I think it's called. It didn't have that. It just had the press the button computer sort of thing, and I really liked that. Like it didn't make you feel like you had because that's what I think. When you're blanking out the buttons, there's one here too, the light switch thing. There's a blanked out button there, and there's a blanked out button here on the center console, like I just showed you, and it makes you feel like, well, you could have got a better car, right? And I did like that about the BMW not having anything blanked out. you bought the car, you got everything, and this is everything the car comes with, and it felt complete, right? Now I know for this Dodge Hornet, there's a version called the RT, and I think they're even making another version. I can't remember what's H. I can't remember, and I really don't care. But the hybrid, there was a hybrid from form of this, and I think that's a button for that. And I don't know if that's the button for that as well. Oh no, that's right. On the BMW, there was a blank out for fog lights, driving fog lights in Europe. That's what it was, and you could change out that blanked out thing for an aftermarket thing that would put the fog lights in. I remember seeing that on YouTube. That's right. There was a blank out on that one for the headlights, for the driving fog lights. It would do fog lights for the rear tail lamps, where it would just a section of it would light up, so that when you're driving in fog, people could see your your rear fog lights were on. Right. That was the only button that was kind of blanked out on that. That's right. That's right. But there was nothing on the console or anything like that. Like this one is center square, right? Right here, center square. You're staring at it. And I thought, okay, I'm buying the Hornet, and I guess this is the fully loaded Hornet with the tech package, or maybe that has to do with the track pack. I don't know because that comes with the paddle shifters. But I think that's silly because it's not getting an upgraded version of it. I guess you're buying a different model of a car. What do you think about blankouts? You've driven cars with blankouts on them. What do you think of them? Did you think the same thing where, you could just keep upgrading and all those buttons, blankouts would be filled, but there are some versions of the car, it doesn't matter. So even if you get the high end version, it replaces equipment from the lower version, so you still end up with blankouts. That's what I'm finding on these new cars. Ouch. Yeah, because no matter what, you cannot buy a car nowadays and have all those blanks filled with buttons. Where in the old days you used to be able to. You remember that? You go buy the highfalutin version and everything's there. But now you just change trim levels, and no matter what, you're going to have button blanks in your car. How does that make you feel? Like for me, it's kind of a ripoff. You're paying all this money, and one thing you wanted was not to have missing equipment, right? You want it all. Everybody wants it all. But they're constantly showing you that, you know what? You don't have it all. You know what I mean? Like and subscribe. See you on the next one.